Abby's. It's Coach Ang and Samyuktha for another edition of A Little Perspective. We are super excited to have a lovely woman on here who has done some really incredible things in the hard of hearing community, and I'm thrilled to have her on. Samyuktha, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It is 9 a.m. on a Sunday, and we're still feeling the effects of the daylight savings. Like we were saying, Angela, why? Right. Right. But yes, like Angela said, I am very excited to have a very awesome guest we're interviewing today for A Little Perspective. Her name is Khaula Rizwan. She is from Lahore, Pakistan. She's an educational consultant, disability advocate, and the recipient of the Fulbright Scholar. Khaula, please say hello. Tell us about yourself. Tell us everything you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me on your Little Perspective podcast. I've been following you guys for a really long time, and I'm super excited to be here. So a little bit about me to get things going. I'm an educational consultant, but this was not how I started. I had my career in the medical field, and it turned out that I listened a lot to what other people had to say about me. If they said that you cannot be a doctor or a psychologist, I followed them. I was very naive because I did not know that advocating for yourself was something too. If I needed accommodation, I need to have that. So by birth, I was born deaf, but because we have been mainstream throughout our life, going to any other school that our cousins or family members will go to, and then having a job, that's where I fully understood that I do not belong here. That I am not fully in the deaf world either. I'm not in the hearing world. I'm somewhere in between. So it was a really hard time. For a very long time, I hid my identity. In our family, we don't use the word disability or something because it was, even though we were very educated, we always thought that by disability, it meant this coming from a lack of education, if you will, that disability is a negative word or it's something to be shunned or, it's hidden, you cannot openly use it, or that disability implies that it has to be severe. Something has to be very severe in order to call it, disabled. I was so wrong about all these things. I wish I knew about this when I was growing up. I had nobody to look up to, someone who could, educate us about the terms here. And that's why when I look back, that this perspective and giving perspective to others is so important here. I'm in the educational consulting business. I help students with disabilities study abroad or maybe go for a small exchange program, because it's really widening their perspective on what they want to know about themselves. There are so many good things about themselves which they know once they are abroad, like out of their comfort zone there. So I started in the middle of a pandemic. I was getting a little bit fed up of my full-time job in the corporate world because it was good, but it was not something I wanted to do. And when the pandemic hit, like most of us, we reflected heavily on our purpose, on our calling, and like what is advocacy. Like we might be getting a lot of freedom, but students with disabilities, and especially in Pakistan, so many people lost their jobs, like around the world as well, but they couldn't figure out what kind of purpose they could have now after the pandemic. So that kind of it made me think that I'm grateful to have received lots of support despite being born and raised in Pakistan, which can be very, very cruel to us. The way they discriminate and treat us, it can be very hurtful. But I learned how to navigate a little bit. We might come to that a little bit after this. But briefly, it's like I began to think about the community I've never talked to. And that made me realize that I need to change my purpose first and then be able to help other people out there.
Wow, that's incredible. You talked about discovering that the word disability is not a negative word. It's just been thought of as that. When did you first start to realize that that was happening? Like, when did you first say, like, you know what, this isn't a bad thing. Being disabled is just different.
Yeah, I think that's when I got my first job as a medical lab technologist at one of the top cancer hospitals in Pakistan. And even though I was very young when I got my first job, it was like lots of interviews, lots of setbacks, having to deal with managers' attitude and all that. But I had one manager who was very supportive, and he said, you know, it's not about the disability itself, it's what this identity does to you. And that made me realize that, okay, I must not be wrong in this world. It's just that people are not willing to accept that someone can be differently able or do things differently than you. They can be disabled, but they have such powerful personality. They have the courage to lead the world, do unthinkable things. And that made me realize that I was meeting more and more people on the job, including people who were visually challenged or people on wheelchairs, and they were having jobs. So I realized that I myself was living in a very closed world, cut off from everyone, and I always thought that I never told anyone, not even during my interview, that I'm hard of hearing or I'm deaf, because I projected myself as a perfect human being. And when I realized that the manager, he was trying to ask me, do I need any help on the job? I don't know how he sensed that. Maybe he has some experience from his family or something. He has traveled a lot as well. So I just told him, like, I opened up finally. I told him, look, I'm deaf. I don't think I can do this job. I need to go back. And he said, hold on, you don't need to go anywhere. Let's just talk it out. But unfortunately,
Wow.
that manager, he gave me that little perspective that, you know what, I will be honest with you, we never had anyone like you on the job before, but we want to give you a chance. That's when I also thought that, what does it mean by giving someone a chance? Are they pitying me, or are they coming from an empathy to I was very young now. When someone says we are giving you a chance, I will literally ask them follow-up questions, because I want to be sure that they are not pitying me or coming from a place of sympathy. I will question them just to be sure that this is the kind of environment I want to be in. So that culture, that bias is still here, but at least I was on the job, and it turned out to be very toxic actually. But at least I learned a lot, and the experience taught me that whenever I met new people, they will ask me, why can't you use the phone? I can make a phone call because it's audio only, and I need like captions or maybe face-to-face dealing. I do this lip reading, so I need to be with people. To the department I was in for a very long time, I was on probation when everyone around me was getting promoted. It hurt me so bad. I went back to the same manager and he said, look, I gave you a chance. I'm really sorry it didn't work out for you. But let's hold on a while. There's another department where you may not have to do so much phone call, and I think you will be successful over there. But the vacancy in that department opened 1.5 years after I started the job. This is how long it took me to get promoted. So yes, sometimes I have to like wait out and like have it getting very frustrated. But that manager, he was also learning with me. I was learning, but he was also learning from me. He was trying out new things that what will not work with me, what will work with me. So when I finally left that job, he was like, I'm so glad I hired you. You helped our whole pathology department to change that thinking that not all deaf people are the same. Some may use sign language, others are verbal like I am, but yes, there are struggles, but he was like, my mind is finally opening up. It's so important to hire people with disability because people live in a very closed bubble, and we never thought that the accommodation that you I need, sometimes it's at a zero cost. There's no money involved there. It's all about attitude, understanding, and empathy there.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting how you were like, I mean, it was toxic, you know, so just because they were helpful doesn't mean it was perfect, but it's awesome that they were helpful. And but the key that I take away is your consistent self-advocacy and how you stood up for yourself, because had you not, you know, said, yeah, actually I do need help, had you not said, hey, why am I not getting promoted, then, you know, none of that would have happened. And so you had to take those big steps to do that, because you were essentially risking, you know, losing your job really to do that. So have you always been just bold and able to advocate like that, or is that something that you had to learn?
No, I had to learn, really learn. I was maybe 22 years old. I learned a little bit here and there, but I learned advocacy, like the true meaning of that word, when I joined a non-government organization for students with deafness and hard of hearing. That experience taught me that the founder of that NGO, she is herself deaf, like severe and profound deaf. She used sign language, but she was a graduate from Columbia University, master's in deaf education. So even though she was like the principal of that NGO, we spent so much time with each other after work hours. And yeah, we had a few colleagues who got very jealous because they thought that we were fraternizing on the job. But I just couldn't explain to my hearing colleague that within the deaf community we have this, you know, that click when you meet someone and they instantly get your struggle, your rant, and your emotion, the feeling, and I couldn't express myself for a very long time. So why can I speak in a much better way? However, communication you can do, whether it's through sign language or written word. I just told her that I'm not confident. I'm not able to express myself in a way that people can change their mindset, or maybe they improve their thinking and be more accepting. So she told me that, have you ever heard the word advocacy? And I'm like, no. She sent me lots of research papers, lots of review papers, biographies from people around the world who wrote memoir books and all. So I just, you know, immersed myself in those books. And that's how I learned that advocacy is a journey. It's not a destination. Sometimes there are days when you will fail, literally fail at advocating for yourself or others, but the word advocacy is so empowering that if you want to be an advocate, and oh, before that, I read up about American law for people with disabilities, including ADA, American with Disability Act, and today there was this history that people with disability, they had the Capitol crawl to the from the White House to the Capitol Hill, and how they removed the assistive technology, devices, mobility, all those, and they climbed. So that made me realize that if they fought for so many years, they advocated for so many years, then I can't feel so bad about the past. That first of all, I'm
Yeah.
living in Pakistan, and
Yeah.
we don't have that kind of protection or policy for people with disabilities. That needs to change. But I was like, you know, I'm a small fish in the big pond. I can change the policy. I can change the law. That was my thinking back then. But the more I experimented and learned from those people, they inspired me so much, not because of the disability, but the fight and the struggle they went through. That feeling of activism, lifelong activism, the activism by Black women, Black men, American with disability, immigrant, refugee. That activism, it can be on an individual level or it can be on a community or collective at the national level. So in Pakistan, we don't have at the national level, but I was so determined to become an advocate that I applied on the Fulbright program right after my undergrad. And I found out that I was not eligible yet because I had my undergrad in 2 years and they needed 10 years of education. So that was kind of like a setback for me. I was like, okay, my time is not yet. So that's real, like, yeah, that's how I learned it.
I love that you brought up the ADA, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but it gave me goosebumps because, and I want to tell the listeners about Crip Camp, which is a show, it's a documentary on Netflix, and it's so good, and it talks a lot about the crawl, the Congress crawl, or I think that's what it was called, but anyway. And so just to fill in the gaps of what Khaula was talking about with with the advocacy that we have had, the political advocacy that we've had in America, and that they are lacking, as far as the policies go. But anyway, just Crip Camp, just want to kind of put a plug for Crip Camp because it's so good. So please continue.
Yeah. It's one amazing documentary, must watch. It will really enlighten you and give you a really unbiased perspective of the historical and the political movement for people to reclaim their rights in a community or a country where not enough is being done. And it's thanks to all the activists we are here where we are now.
I agree. Like that was so monumental, back in the day. And like that was like without all that work and advocacy that they did, putting their lives on the line literally to, just get, basic civil rights, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to benefit and get access like we're getting now. And it's still a work in progress. Like we're still working, we're still advocating. It's still, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. You mentioned that you're a Fulbright Scholar. Can you talk about that? Like what, I'm sure there are listeners that maybe don't know what, the Fulbright Scholar program is and how people can apply. And yeah, tell us about that.
Yes, so the Fulbright was initiated by an American who believes that we have enough wars going on. We need to put the wars and the hate behind us. And the only way to bring all the countries together, especially your own home country, and making a very strong connection to the American community, one way of doing that is to facilitate or contribute to an international exchange program. It can be purely academic or professional or both. So the Fulbright program that I went to was for a master, to pursue a master at any great university in the US, because it's a fully funded opportunity, and for international students, it means that you don't have to pay anything for your master. But yes, the preparation, like they ask for GRE, exam, and all, a little bit of document preparation and all that. Maybe combined total it will just be $300 or so, but the whole of the application and actually getting the award is entirely free. And because it's sponsored by the US Embassy, you don't have to pay for the visa cost as well, which can be very prohibitive. But I always recommend to people that if you qualify, these are like the bare minimum. The application, they ask for your personal story. So just be very true to yourself and tell the world who you are, what your vision is, and challenge the system. Challenge your country and be bold and, challenge the system and process that. Okay, for example, if you are applying for a master's in finance, then you need to challenge how the loan system is working around the world. And in particular in Pakistan, we are going a little bit backward when it comes to financial loans and all that. We are borrowing a lot. So maybe come up with a new, bright perspective on your own contribution to your home country development or your individual contribution there. But the fact that because you will be in the United States for maybe a year or 2 years for your master's or 3 years for your PhD, it gives you two kind of very different perspective really quickly. One is that you will be part of a global Fulbright cohort, which means you will meet people like Fulbright from those countries where you have never been to, but you are meeting them in the United States, wherever you are going to be for a conference, seminar, or whatever. That perspective from international Fulbright is so important as well. And then you are getting perspective from the American themselves. So their culture, their values, their belief, maybe the straightforwardness, their communication, their cultural assumptions about Pakistan or any other international student, that they give you so many experiences, like it keeps on repeating. And I can't tell you how many times I had this moment where I think that the kind of discussion I'm having right now with someone in the classroom, that discussion has happened so many times that it feels like a deja vu moment for me. Then I'm like, am I dreaming of what? It keeps happening there, and it's made me realize that we are making lots of mistakes when we do this assumption. We assume that people think about us the same way that we think about ourselves. But it's so untrue. We need to ask them, ask, we were bold to ask people for the feedback. So when we bring all that experience with us back to home country, we have changed a lot permanently. I mean, that experience changes you permanently, and yeah, your family will definitely say to you, you are not the same person you were 2 years ago, and we can't handle you anymore. But that's one of the aspects of culture shock. You get used to it and you tone down a little bit. Okay, I'm back to my home country. We can expect intention, but that experience teaches you so much in such a little time that you are like transformed for the whole of your life, literally. You become so confident, so empowered. You want to be able to make a decision very quickly, do the right thing, not for only yourself, but for your family and community. To provide it like really a lifetime opportunity. So I will really recommend people to apply.
That's awesome. What an experience that you had, and just like what you said about you're not the same person, just 2 years ago, and just looking back, on your journey, and here you are, the founder of in a consulting firm, the Khaula Rizwan educational consultancy.
Yeah.
Like this is your accomplishment, like your dream. Can you talk about, your work and like what you do in the consulting firm?
Yeah. So I don't like to call myself the CEO of any company because it's really my clients and students who have helped me become a consultant. Like I was in the market, I was trying to find a really good opportunity, maybe by applying to jobs and all that. But my own community, I was listening to my community when the pandemic hit. I was reading up like on social media, what are the struggles, what is happening. Like overnight, we all went into a lockdown. That meant if we had to go and see a psychologist, we couldn't. We had to wait for the lockdown to be over, or you can have one-on-one meeting with them online. And given how many people don't even have a laptop at home or internet connectivity, that made me think that I need to change. I need to be more accessible for people, that if they want to reach out to me, they should be able to do that without coming over to my place or meeting outside because of COVID. And the cases were so high in Pakistan and in India as well. So in-person meeting was nearly impossible. So that made me realize that I want to be able to consult for students, like if they want to reach out to me, I want to be available at all times. So the first 4 months, the first 2 months, I was providing free of cost services to anyone who inquired about Fulbright or any of the big scholarships they wanted to apply for. I got so worried about how people will not be able to afford much service, and even though I was not in a position to keep myself going financially, I still decided that let me try it out free of cost for a while and see what the market response is to me. So what I did was, I did not tell anyone that I'm born deaf or I'm hard of hearing. I'm just like any other consultant in the market. So I was getting good response, but then I was feeling like I'm lying to myself. I'm lying to my community. I'm a Fulbright Scholar. I did not go to the US to come back and hide about myself. I was like, through all that, through professionalism, through all this, I need to be authentic. So what if I am deaf or hard of hearing? So what if I'm speaking the way I do, but at least I'm trying to be there for you as well. So you have to meet me halfway. That is when I started posting a lot on LinkedIn. I was trying to tell my story there that I'm hard of hearing. I'm probably the only hard of hearing consultant in the market in Lahore because people are not very honest about themselves. They just want to make quick money. They just want to provide admission, but not the empathy or the purpose kind of consultant that students need. They want someone who can listen to the story and bring out their best as well. This was me back when I was applying for Fulbright. When I was writing my personal statement, I thought that I don't have any good story to write other than play that disability card, maybe. And yes, for that, they want people or children with disability to come on the program because at the moment their ratio is pretty bad. They need more people with disability. So I knew I had an advantage, like Fulbright values people with disability. They value that we get extra points and all that. But I did not want to play that disability card because it's not about that I'm deaf, it's just that I have something to contribute to my community. So I just did a lot of reflection, this trial and error that I'm hiding about myself. I need to tell people who I am. And I was very surprised to see the response from people. They were saying, thanks to you, I am opening up about myself. I am also deaf. I am also um, like visually challenged. I've never told anybody about myself. And I was thinking that this is so stigmatized. Why? We are in the 21st century, the whole world is using technology and we are still like hiding about ourselves. And that puts a lot of responsibility on me as a community consultant that if they're actually looking up to me, I can't lie. I need to be honest. Yes, there were some clients, like when I look back, there were some clients who openly discriminated, but maybe for 1 out of 10 cases per month, but the rest of them, they say, we don't care, we are so glad to come to you and not any other because at least you are being honest and that puts us to be the better version of ourselves. So my story is trying to help them reframe their own narrative when they are writing their personal statement. They are thinking about social justice. They're thinking about challenges in the system. They are being more bold and like challenging everything with this being professional thinkers, little bit better writers, and being honest about themselves as well. So that's how I feel that we need to be more authentic.
I would love to hear you talk about ableism a little bit, because in this story, you know, that you just told, how you were nervous to uh, open up about your disability initially because you didn't know how it was going to be received. And I think Samyuktha and I can definitely relate to that as well. You know, when I've applied for jobs, you know, I've always been nervous about the first interview because that's when they'll see that I'm disabled. But really, the root of that is ableism. And I know that that word is used a lot lately, but you know, how do you view ableism and how does that like affect your life?
Yeah. So I will be honest with you, even today I don't really understand what ableism looks like in a country like Pakistan, because what is the difference? I often think, what is the difference between ableism and discrimination? I'm like stuck over here because we are. If you ever lived in a South Asian country or a developing country, you will internalize, you will feel it on your skin. You know the way people look at you, the way they keep you out of the room, virtual room, you will feel it on your skin. So I think that ableism is like discrimination is an umbrella term, and within discrimination there are so many different kinds of self-discrimination. And if people without disability they discriminate or they feel that they are better off or they are superior to people with disability, then that is discrimination. Why are we using a difficult word like ableism? But of course, because I'm a researcher, I'm in the education sector, I have to research a lot that what does it look like on the field, on the ground, like in real life, how does it play out? Do people intentionally practice ableism, or is it something that the society, the upbringing that prompts them to say these kind of things? But this experience is the best teacher. It's not something you learn in a book. If something happens to you, you understand, okay, this is ability. So when I applied for my first job, the one I just talked about, obviously because it's not like a smooth going, there are rough patches during interviews as well. So unfortunately, when I applied for that job, it was a diploma program where they rotate you various departments in the pathology lab. You are in special chemistry, then hematology, then maybe microbiology, etc. So that diploma program was very interesting because it trained you very quickly to become a medical technologist, then the conventional employment route. So there were two pathways. So the first one I tried for, unfortunately, I had this back pain at the time of my interview, and I had to be on a wheelchair. And the people on the interview panel, they thought that I was um, doubly disabled. Like, I told them that I need accommodation. Like, if you are interviewing me and I can understand your question, you need to repeat or be more loud so that I can understand you. There were medical doctor on the panel, and I was on a wheelchair. They thought that I am wheelchair bound and I'm deaf. So no way we can hire her. No way. Because our lab, we was very like on a like pain. We need pain. We need people who can walk. We need people who can hear. So no, rejected, rejected, rejected. Rather in the first 5 minutes, I was rejected. And I was like, are you all doctors? I was telling them that I'm not on a wheelchair permanently. I was trying to convince them and all that. That didn't work. And they say, you know what? Let me tell you what kind of job you can work in. The list they gave me was horrible because I have an undergrad and I have a professional training to work in the lab. So they were like, I don't think you can do any job at all. And that doctor, they were supposed to understand what deafness looks like, especially if someone can speak and listen. That means they must have had lots of therapies and trainings in childhood. They must have really good parents or family caregivers, like grandparents, who help educate everyone that they need to be mainstream. And then there are people I feel really strongly for them that they did not have enough resources to be able to grow the way I did. And I feel for them because money is a very common issue in South Asian community. If you have finance, you can get better resources for yourself. So I was thinking that there's something that the panel of doctors did to me, but I did not know that this was ableism. If I know now, I will have compassionate family swelling. Anyway, that was so long ago, these kind of experiences keep happening. When I was applying for an academic program for psychology, one of the professors, they told me that how can you become a psychologist, because when you meet people, you have to communicate a lot. Again, they start, I don't say you can do this, you're not cut out. I don't know how to tell you, but I hope you don't mind, no offense and all. And I was like, something's going on, I can't frame it in a word. And now I understand that this was a village. They thought they are better than me because they're perfect. I mean, according to them, they are perfect. And now I think I have two children who I train them to choose a career path, and they're becoming psychologists. They are hard of hearing like me because I did not let them give in to ableism. So sometimes it's so important that we have a term, discrimination. There can be all kinds of discrimination like racism, sexism, but we have this ableism that people in the disability community, we feel that we need a world of our own. And we need to tell the world that it is not okay. This is how it looks like, the way you express your tone and the way you try to hold our hands and say, it's okay, I understand. But they don't.
Wow, yes. So moving, so empowering, just hearing everything that you're saying. It's just resonating so much with me. And, just being also, South Asian descent, and, India is just next door, and the discrimination and just how the disability community is just seen as a burden over there. And it's just so, it just speaks to, how much work, like how much change, transformation needs to happen. So thank you for really, bringing that up and, pointing that out. We're just about wrapping up and like running out of time, but Khaula, is there any last words you want to say about how we can be better disability advocates and how, people can connect with you?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I am now loving it. Initially, I used to be afraid of that question because I could not come up with good ideas. Then I realized that we are all on a journey. People think that we need to get better at connecting with people with disability right away, right now. It's not. It's like a journey. You have a friendship with someone. It doesn't happen overnight, right? You will learn to respect that person. You learn to spend more time with them. You are going to have lots of fights. You are going to ask silly questions. You are going to pull their hair by, bugging them a lot. So how is it different with people with disability? Like, come and talk to us, just ask questions. Yeah, if you are worried that you might offend someone, but I feel that this is one of the reasons why people without disabilities or hearing people, they don't want to talk too much with us or be friends with us. It is changing a lot by the way that it's entirely different how it used to be in the past. But I think the main reason why people don't want to connect or hire is the fear that I may fail at accommodating them. And I understand that fear because they're worrying that I will offend you, even though I don't want to come across as someone who will offend you. I'm too good a person to offend you, right? So, like, I'm a professional, I don't want to offend you or lose my job. But I always ask people to come on, ask good questions. Because if you assume beforehand, I think that Khaula is not very friendly or something, that is your own assumption about her. You don't know about her the way she knows about herself. You just connect with them, ask good questions. But if you want to be an advocate, remember it's a journey. You will get better after many years. You will be very passionate about it. You will have lots of different kinds of experiences. It will teach you so much about yourself as well. And you will fail. You will definitely fail. Even we fail. We fail to get the accommodation we need. We don't have the caption right. or we can't go to a building or get a banking app, we are going to fail like that. I failed maybe in the last 2 years, I failed a lot, but I grew as well. I learned so many things that I never would have that I did not fail. So be open to failing, but think it's a learning experience and just ask good questions.
You said so much in that little answer. Oh my goodness. Samyuktha and I are, because we're little people, I see a lot of other little people sharing posts that are similar to what you were saying, as far as just ask, you know, and a lot of times we will talk about children in that aspect. Like, we would rather the parents, instead of like, shh, trying to hide us away or scooch them away, we'd rather the parent, yes, she's a little person. Why don't you go ask her name? That kind of thing. So I love the just ask. I love that. And then I love the journey, because as an advocate myself, not only for myself, but for others, like, I can look back 5 years ago and see how I had so many things wrong, but it's the journey. Like, had I not gotten those things wrong, I would not be where I am today. And I know in 5 years, I'm going to look back at today and say, oof, you shouldn't have done that, or that was not ideal. But, again, it's the journey. So I absolutely loved what you just shared. That was gold. Thank you.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but when I started out as an advocate, I did not project myself or updated my LinkedIn profile to say I am a disability advocate. I was like, if you want to be an advocate, you need to have a qualification for that. That is one myth, that advocacy is like individual activism. So just advocate if you feel you want to talk about something and keep talking about it. And number two, I just remember that you will not get everything perfect ever. Because even accessibility, if I am getting the Zoom caption right now, it's not perfect, but at least it's something. It's so empowering for me. I'm getting everything which I was not getting 2 years back. The pandemic changed so many things, so many Microsoft teams and Google, they're working together with people with disability. So that is something we need to celebrate. The small win. It's right in front of us.
Exactly. Like you said, it's a learning experience for all of us, and I know that our viewers learned a lot just by hearing your story today. So thank you so much, Khaula, for taking the time and being with us this morning. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Angela?
I think
truly thank you. And how would you like people to connect with you? What is your, do you have a website, or would you like them to connect with you on social media or LinkedIn?
Yeah, I have a LinkedIn page by my same name, Khaula Rizwan, and you can find me on Facebook by Khaula Rizwan Consultancy, and you can just drop me a message anytime, even not for personal chat or anything. I would love to meet you all. Come and talk to me. And thank you so much for having me here. I've been so blessed. It's like I'm finally able to talk about myself, my identity. It was so hard in the beginning, but I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much, Angela and Samyuktha.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was awesome. I think we probably could have talked for another 2 hours, honestly, right? But my attention span doesn't allow for it. So thank you so much for being here. You guys connect with her. And if you have any questions or anything, drop them in the comments and we'll make sure she sees them. But otherwise, we love all of you and we hope that you guys have the best day. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. See you later.